For what purpose does the gentleman from North Dakota seek recognition?
Move to strike the last word.
Gentleman is recognized.
I think we have some signals crossed. Until about 30 seconds ago, or 5 minutes ago, or 10 minutes ago, this subpoena was for a full unredacted version of the Mueller report. My colleagues on the other side of the aisle have given speeches, have cited cases, now I don't think they're entirely relevant, about releasing 6E material. We just had a witness, or just had a speech saying we get the entire report. Now we're hearing conversations about 6E isn't necessarily in it, but it's in the subpoena. The subpoena is simple. It is fully to have the unredacted Mueller report. And just in the way that words matter, the letter didn't say a proactive assertion of privilege. It said a protective assertion of privilege. And I think we can reasonably argue that one of the reasons they're doing a protective assertion of privilege is in order to comply with the subpoena, they would have to violate the law. Now we talk about asking the Attorney General to go to court to release rules or grand jury evidence. We talk about how that has happened in the past. First of all, in the case that had happened in the past, it was actually the Halderman case, and the reason the court ruled in favor of releasing the information is because they heard it was because they ruled that it was a legal proceeding because it was an impeachment proceeding. Secondly, the Attorney General has no obligation to go to court, and by issuing a subpoena, this committee cannot compel him to go to court. This committee can go to court on its own to try and release that information, but by the way, and I'll be offering an amendment later, there's no guarantee that is going to happen either. So when we're having this conversation, when we're giving speeches, when we're going on CNN, when we're going on MSNBC, let's at least talk about what this is about. The subpoena was to release the full unredacted report. And regardless of the colloquy we're having today, regardless of the debate we're having on this dais about that very information, that's what the subpoena says. So when you issue a protective assertion of privilege, you have the right to do that, particularly, I think, if you're the Attorney General and you think you'll have to violate the law in order to comply with the subpoena. Secondly, and I think it becomes interesting and more important when we discuss how this has moved forward and where we're at. And by that I mean we're citing the SB case, we're saying that we have all of these different issues, but nothing that has been redacted has been shared. It's only been shared from executive to executive. None of the underlying information has been shared. To say that there isn't a valid claim of assertion of executive privilege on that information, I think I agree with the ranking member, is a jump ball at best. So
would the gentleman yield?
With that, yeah, I yield.
Mr. Armstrong, and with great respect, I guess the question may be to Ranking Member Collins. You said that executive privilege has not been waived with respect to the redacted portions of the report. Now, I'm not talking about the grand jury piece. I'm talking about the other pieces. My understanding is that the ranking member has seen that unredacted material. Am I mistaken?
I haven't seen it, so.
I know you haven't seen it, Mr. Armstrong, which is why we're here, right? I mean, fundamentally, it's so that the members of this committee, as well as the members, I would say, of the Intelligence Committee, I might add, can have access to those unredacted portions of the report so that we can ultimately do our jobs. And so I just want to clarify that piece.
And the answer, I think, becomes when you go into a contempt proceeding as you're working through this, and I'm confused now as to whether 6E material is part of the subpoena. Actually, I'm not. I know it is part of the subpoena, but it's part of the conversation that has gone on. So asserting protective assertion of privilege, I mean, they have the right to do that. What the ranking member has seen and hasn't seen under those settings, I think, is a completely different conversation. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back.